Hello, everybody! Welcome back to my little corner of the internet where I will talk about stories of my life, my work both as a comic book author and a translator, my cats Hey Hey and Serengeti, and the occasional movie, book, or TV series review and recommendation, as well as some rants if the feeling hits. And this time, I'm going to talk about something that came up due to a little bit of drama down here in Mexico, where I live. I won't talk about the drama itself because really it's not that important on the great scheme of things, but it made me think of something that may be important to artists all over the world, not just in my country, and that is the crucial decision of which shows to go as part of their artist talent. Now, I know that the first answer that comes to mind to many Mexican artists, and many newbie ones in the US, is every single one I can go to. I know, I used to think that, and it brought me a lot of pain because of time and money concerns. But pre-pandemic, that was the way any artist could make a fan base for themselves. And even now, yes, hey, I am talking about that. Unless you get lucky and become viral, it's a lot easier to connect with new readers or fans if you're an illustrator, live in a con that through the internet. But with the idea that you should not have a table in every single show you know about, how do you choose the ones that fit you best? What are the things that you should know about a show before committing money and time to it? Well, let's talk about artist alleys and how to figure out if they are a good fit for you. Now, there are many things that factor in the decision to go to an artist alley, but the most important one for most people is cost, because we all know that if you don't make at least the cost of the table back, it was not a successful convention. Well, we will talk about that later. However, I'd say that we shouldn't just consider cost, but also what do you do get for your money besides a place to sell what you need to. For most artist alleys, cost may go between $150 and $350, although there are some outliers like the New York Comic Con, which goes as far as to charge $500. This includes the table. In the USA, most of the time, this also includes the tablecloth. In Mexico, sometimes it doesn't. 1 or 2 chairs, depending on the conventions. 1 badge for the vendor. If you want more for your team of helpers, you need to pay for them at a normal cost. And a sign with your name and table number. There are very few artist alleys that are for free. If you happen to have one locally, please protect them as if they were gold, because they are. These tend to be juried. That is, you have to present your portfolio in order for them to decide if they want you in their artist alley, and have more rules than a paid table, which might include no fan art or participating in the convention as a panelist or so on, but they are still supporting artists by cutting a big cost from their budget. These conventions tend to be a lot smaller than the big ones, but they are good ways to start, and supporting them from the beginning is always a good investment. As an aside, until 2022, San Diego Comic Con's artist alley tables were free and juried. Sure, the wait list was about 5 years long, but it was still free. Unfortunately, the pandemic changed that, and now they are charging $350 for the table. But given the other factors that we are going to count down, it's still quite cheap, especially comparing it to the other convention of a similar size, the New York Comic Con. Of course, this is not the only cost that we are going to incur unless the con is local. Because the moment the convention is in a different state or country, we have to add the cost of traveling and housing unless we are lucky enough to be invited by the con itself. But if that were the case, we will not be paying for a table, not wondering if we should go or not. So, for that we also must add, if the con is not local, the cost of food, because trust me, the one thing you don't want to do when having a table at any convention is not eating. You need energy, you need to stay hydrated, and unfortunately that costs money. And just to make your wallet cry a little bit more, if you make merchandise for this con, well, the cost of the merch also goes to the column of money that you have to make back in order to consider the convention a success. This adds a lot of money that you have to make back in order for the convention to be worth going for you, because you should not just make the money of the table back, but also the money that you invested to go and survive the days that you're going to be there. And some people also add the money that they are not making by not going to their 24/7 job, which makes the quantity of money you have to make back a lot higher. And I know that for some people, especially the newer ones to the comic and illustrator gig, this is starting to sound hopeless and incredibly expensive. And I agree if the only consideration we'd have to take was money. Because you see, There are other things that you can get from an artist alley that have great value without it being immediately or monetary, and some considerations that you have to take before you start adding money that you must make back. For example, if you were already planning to go to the convention because a celebrity or author you like is going to be there and you want to meet them, well, I would cut the travel and lodging costs from what you have to make back, because at the end of the day, you were going to make those expenses anyway, even if you didn't have an artist alley table, and thus we're back to just making back the cost of the table itself. So, what else do you get from exhibiting in the artist alley? Well, eyeballs on your art and projects, of course. The one thing that you can't forget when having a table at any convention is business cards with all your links, or at least a sign with them that can be easily photographed if you run out of cards. Sure, some of them will end up forgotten or in the trash, but every card you give away, it's a potential new watcher or reader for your projects, even if they don't buy anything at the time. The mere fact that they pick up the card means that they saw something they liked and want to be able to check more later when they have more time or, depending on their budget, actual cash to buy. And that means that yes, you have to find out more or less how many people go to the convention you are considering to go in order to figure out the value of how many people may see your work there. But this doesn't mean that a table at a convention that has between 10,000 and 20,000 attendees should be cheaper than one that has 150,000 attendees. What it means is that you have to consider which one of them might bring you more new watchers and how much these new watchers are worth to you. Now, I do not mean how much money they might give you later. That is something that you can't know because, as I say, it's not as if every person that takes your card or info will later go on and join your Patreon at $10 a month. They may just become followers of your art on Instagram for free or start reading your webcomic without spending a cent. So yeah, that's hard to quantify in money value, but it's still something that you are gaining because the more followers you have, the easier it is for your posts to become viral and gather even more viewers who, hopefully, will want to send money your way. In these situations, some may think that the less attendees that a convention has, the better, because you have a better chance to be seen by everyone. I know that in Comic-Con there are places that I have never seen, mostly in Hall A, despite having been going for more than 15 years now, so I assume that there are people who have never seen the artist alley there. But there is also the other side of the coin. The more people the convention has, the more people that may pass by your table. Personally, I consider any con where someone comes to see my table because someone else told them that they may see something that they like a success, no matter how much money I actually make there. Why? Because it means that there is now word of mouth starting to work on my favor, and that for me is more valuable while growing a brand than just the money. And of course, there is nothing better than someone coming to your table and listening to your sales pitch on the first day just to come back on the last day to buy your stuff. Another important thing for cons is networking. Even if you are supposed to stay on your table at all times, that doesn't mean that you can't chat with your neighbors during the slow times or before the con opens. Being friendly is a must here, because you are going to be stuck to each other for at least 3 days, and following con etiquette is a must. Remember, don't snipe clients, don't go over the limit of the table, and so on. But also listen to them and their experiences, as well as offer help when you can. Because of the nature of artist alleys in general, you may be neighbors with someone far, far more experienced than you, someone more popular, or someone who is just starting and is less experienced and popular too. In both cases, offering a helping hand or asking questions if you have them is always a good thing. And truly, you may be next to someone that has art that you think is 10,000 better than yours, but you will be surprised to find that they think the same about your art. And some may be a lot more popular than you but have less experience exhibiting. So, the exchange of information is always, always good. Some cons even have Facebook groups for their artist alleys organized by long-time expositors there. These are a great way to meet other people and even organize fun events that can bring viewers and customers to everyone's tables, like a treasure hunt. This was a great experience I had at Comic-Con 2022, for example, with people coming with their list of which tables they had to visit in order to participate in a raffle at the end of the day. And yes, many of them actually end up buying my stuff also. The idea is clear. We are all in this together as independent artists, and no one is an island. While of course you won't end up being best friends with everyone at the artist alley, As long as you keep yourself open to meeting new people, you will come out of the con with new contacts, which again are as valuable as money in this industry. Now, all of this is missing a couple of important things that you have to consider too, and those will need a bit of research on your side. The first one is the reputation of the convention itself, because while most of the big conventions are pretty free of controversies, there are a few that, due to their guests or their organizers, can end up being famous in certain circles. Some of these controversies might be not important to you, like, for example, if a guest is being hated on Twitter. It may not affect your audience in general, so you won't care. Unless, of course, the actions of the guest are offensive to you personally, then you decide if you can be on the same con as that person or not. But if the scandal is because the convention mistreats the smaller exhibitors or doesn't fulfill their contracts, well, then it's a completely different horse that will really affect you and should be considered before you apply. The way that conventions treat their exhibitors is easy to find out by Googling the name on Twitter or finding some groups on Facebook or Discord, since artist alley artists like to talk about their experiences no matter if they were good or bad. Joining those groups is a great way to research and find out about different artist alleys rules and how they are enforced during the actual event. In the current age, we also must worry about COVID-19 protocols. While some people think that the pandemic is a thing of the past, pretty much every convention that has happened since they started to reopen has ended up with the spreading of the virus among guests, attendees, and exhibitors. However, some cons have been better than others about it, so check the COVID-19 protocols of each convention and, if there has been one or more conventions after the opening, how they were enforced. This is for your own safety, especially if you have any health problem or pre-existing condition, because remember, even vaccinated, you can still get it, even if it is not as serious as a non-vaccinated case. Personally, I don't go to any convention that doesn't enforce mask wearing on their attendees, but your mileage may vary. Then there is the subject of the convention itself. Most famous conventions are general themed, so as long as you are geeky, you are a good fit. But there are some that are very specific to a genre, to a show, and so on. And while that means that you have a very cultured target audience at the con, it also means that your product needs to be part of the theme. If you do sci-fi stuff, either original or for fandoms like Star Trek or Star Wars, you should not try to get a table in a supernatural convention, because while there is some intersection within their fandoms, people are not going to be looking for Enterprise stickers there. An exception has to be made for Doctor Who and BBC's Sherlock's Merc at a supernatural convention due to the way in which the three fandoms mix it in Tumblr. But that's a story for another day. Original stuff may also have a problem to find an audience in this show-specific convention, but on genre-specific convention may have better success. If you have a horror comic, well, an horror-only convention is a good way to find new readers, but a cutesy slice of life comic without an extra twist, like, say, The Great Irma's use of Japanese ghosts, wouldn't have much luck. This is about subject matter, by the way, not style. While yes, a more American or European style of drawing will not be that popular on an anime convention, unless it's prints of the anime character that are most popular right now, the truth is that all styles are welcome in all conventions and thus should not be a big concern for you to choose your con. Now, most conventions right now have juried artist alleys, which I mentioned before. This means that you can't just send your application, a check, and get a table. Instead, you have to send your applications with links to your products and portfolio and wait for the con to decide if you are a good fit for them. This can be a bit disheartening when you get rejection after rejection, but don't despair. Most rejections are not about your style or quality of work, but about the space in the convention. They give priority to those who have already exhibited there and have few spaces for new people. It is not you are terrible, but you weren't lucky, try again. And this also means that if you have a local convention whose artist alley is not juried, get in there first and get there fast if everything else is good for you, as it will later become juried, trust me, it will, and you will have better chances for future editions if you have been there since the beginning. As you can see, choosing when and where to have a table on Artist Alley is not an easy choice. All the things I mentioned are the general things you have to worry about, but every person is different. You may also have to consider the dates due to your other job, because let's be honest, most of us have another job besides being an illustrator comic book artist, your vacation time, your mental health situation. Trust me, if you don't do well in crowds, you will need some extra spoon for any convention you go to, and so on. But at the end of the day, if you decide to do it, believe me, it will be worth it. Just remember that the benefits from tabling are not just the economic ones, and try to have the best time you can at whichever con you choose. I want to thank my dear patrons Mitch Hyman, Elaine Ho, Jessic, and Ellie Riley, as well as my first supporter Tanya Pineda and the most amazing Amy Sunk, without whom none of my videos would be possible. I also want to remind you that if you want to support these and my other projects and get your name mentioned here, you can do so at patreon.com/Adalisa, written link on description with my link tree, as I know my name can be hard to spell, and with just $1 a month, you will always be thanked in my videos, as well as get access to a ton of art before anyone else, and get the chance to suggest future subjects for videos too. You can also support me through Ko-fi, and for each coffee you will get mentioned in 3 future videos. If you can't support me this way, I also accept likes, subscriptions to the channel, and of course, you sharing the links. I also welcome all your questions, feedbacks, and suggestions in the comments below. This was Adalisa Zarate, and I will see you soon so we can grab another cup of coffee and talk about, well, unfortunately, once more about diversity and how no matter how certain people cry about it, is never forced.